Good morning. We will now hear
NATO
from
Secretary General Mark Rutte said allies need to focus more on delivering military aid to Ukraine ahead of a two-day summit in Brussels.
But we will all need to do more, especially now. The stronger our military support to Ukraine is now, the stronger their hand will be at the negotiating table. And the sooner we can end Russian aggression once and for all in Ukraine.
He argued that increased military support should take priority over discussions on a peace deal.
But I would argue, let's not have all these discussions step by step on what a peace process might look like. Make sure that Ukraine has what it needs to get to a position of strength when those peace talks start, when the Ukrainian government has decided they are ready to do so.
Rutte also announced that NATO will boost intelligence sharing and enhance the protection of critical infrastructure in the face of Russian acts of sabotage against allies. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has also reiterated his call for his country to become a NATO member as soon as possible. Rutte said that the process towards full membership is happening step by step. At least 3 civilians were killed in an airstrike on a hospital in Idlib on Monday, say the Syrian White Helmets, an opposition-run rescue service. As rebel fighters in Syria continue to advance, government forces have stepped up strikes on the rebel-held city of Idlib, as well as positions in Aleppo. Insurgents have taken over large parts of Aleppo since Sunday, including its international airport. Footage captured by one of the fighters also appears to show them entering a palace believed to belong to Syrian President Assad. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said on Monday that at least 44 civilians, including 12 children, had been killed in Syria since 26 November. It added that almost 50,000 people have been displaced, with key infrastructure like schools and hospitals damaged by airstrikes.
The Israeli defense minister warned that if the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah breaks down, Israel will expand its strikes beyond areas where Hezbollah is concentrated and target the Lebanese state itself. His comments come as both sides of the conflict accuse the other of violating the ceasefire.
המדיניות שלנו ביחד עם צה"ל היא ברורה וחד משמעית. אנחנו נפעל בכל העוצמה כדי לאכוף את כל ההבנות האלה וכל הסכם הפסקת האש הזה. ואנחנו נהיה עם מקסימום תגובה ואפס סובלנות.
Israel largely refrained from striking critical infrastructure of the Lebanese armed forces during the 14th-month conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. The war appeared to have come to an end last week after a ceasefire brokered by the United States and France, but is threatened as attacks continue. Romania is coming to terms with a new political reality. Despite their success in parliamentary elections, pro-Western parties are likely to form a coalition amid the rise in popularity of the far right. Many observers believe the outcome was a protest vote, representing a sharp boost from mainstream parties to an anti-establishment movement.
I think through yesterday's vote, Romanians wanted to send a clear message to their own politicians rather than to Europe. The significant increase in support for the extremists compared to 2020 shows that in Romania there is an important social discontent. Nevertheless, parts of yesterday's vote came from Romanians who wanted to defend their country's pro-EU stance, alarmed by the results in the first round of the presidential elections.
Though the new parliament's composition means Romania will continue on its pro-Western and pro-Ukraine path, all eyes are on this weekend's presidential election and its potential repercussions in the region and across the EU. Ultra-nationalist Călin Georgescu won the first round of the presidential election and is set to face the pro-European Elena Lasconi in Sunday's showdown.
Vreau să vă mulțumesc
că nu v-ați jucat ruleta rusească cu democrația din România și cu acest drept sfânt de a vota liber.
The fragmentation of the vote has prompted pro-Western parties to start discussing possible coalition options in order to form a government. However, each of these possibilities points out to a government with reduced stability. And there is, of course, the great question mark regarding the results of the second round of presidential elections next Sunday between the ultra-nationalist candidate Călin Georgescu and the pro-Western candidate Elena Lasconi.
Canada's foreign minister expressed solidarity with the Georgian people and said their nation would follow Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia in imposing sanctions for those suppressing legitimate protests in Georgia.
We are very concerned about what Russia is trying to do in Georgia, and in that sense we will follow suit. We will sanction key individuals and also businesses, entities that are involved in either human rights violations or corruption based on our own sanctions regime.
A fifth consecutive night of protest was underway across Georgia against the government's decision to halt negotiations for the small former Soviet republic to join the European Union. The protests have since spread beyond the capital to regional towns and cities, and schools and universities across the country held strikes and walkouts. The Georgian Prime Minister has denied the reasons for the protests and insisted that the Georgian European integration plan has not been halted.
A long line of cars are already lining up at dawn as they are on their way to the Hungarian-Austrian border crossing at Sopron. Thousands of people commute every day to their jobs in Austria, where they are paid double compared to in Hungary. In recent weeks, there has been a significant buildup of vehicles here, as several roads in Burgenland have been closed to reduce traffic. A few kilometers away, the road to Klingenbach was closed with a concrete barrier. The municipality said they made the decision on the grounds of protecting the peace of its residents.
Because there was too many vehicles coming in the morning hours, so this road becomes crowded. This exactly this one, and you have to wait like a half hour to exit to this round, and lots of people are just taking a shortcut through the village.
Meanwhile, on the Austrian side, more and more municipalities are trying to prevent traffic from building up in the streets. In Akvalva, a large stone was placed on the bridge at the border crossing to prevent cars from crossing into Burgenland. And another border crossing between Akvalva and Schattendorf was closed to cars in 2023. Only those who bought a pass were allowed to cross. However, they were unable to do so regardless for months due to ongoing technical issues.
Be kell fizetni 160 eurót, és akkor szabad az átjárás, akinek van ehhez kártyája. Viszont most lezárták több mint fél éve elektronikai problémák miatt.
Megaláztatás a magyarokkal szembe egyébként, mert ha magyarok nem lennének, talán bezárhatna a gazdaságuk is, mert ők viszik az egész gazdaságukat.
As a result, dozens of cars are parked near the border crossing every day, where people opt to go to work in Schattendorf on foot or by bicycle.
Egy nemzetközi ügyvédi iroda kártérítési pert indított a Schattendorfi önkormányzat ellen, arra hivatkozva, hogy azoknak a magyaroknak, akik át akarnak kelni a faluba, több mint 30 kilométert kell kerülniük. Első fokon azonban elutasította keresetüket az osztrák tartományi bíróság. Kis Gábor, Euronews, Ágfalva.
European member states approved the recommendation to extend the smoking ban to certain outdoor areas such as cafe terraces, playgrounds or bus stops. This ban is not only for tobacco but also for emerging products such as electronic cigarettes or heated tobacco products, which are particularly popular among young people. However, this recommendation is not binding. The member states are free to adopt and apply or not. We went to check the pulse of customers and restaurants to see how they feel about this.
Les terrasses, c'est quand même une invention fabuleuse et enlever le droit de fumer, c'est un peu mutiler la possibilité de profiter d'une terrasse pour ceux qui fument.
Il y a des clients qui vont venir moins dans les établissements à partir du moment où il y aura cette norme qui va passer.
This is a public health issue. 27% of cancers are attributed to smoking. E-cigarettes also emit toxic substances that cause heart and lung disorders, according to the WHO. Public health associations welcome a timely revision. The last recommendation of the Council on this issue was in 2009.
15 years passed. Back in 2009, heated tobacco products didn't even exist. And electronic cigarettes, it was still a novelty. And now we are faced with these new challenges. So obviously they need to be covered.
Besides shielding people from secondhand smoke, expanding no-smoking areas also seek to shift social norms, discouraging the next generation from taking up the habit by observing other smokers.
Voor ons is het heel belangrijk dat rookvrij en dus niet roken en niet vapen, dat een nieuwe sociale norm wordt. Dus wij willen heel hard inzetten op die sociale norm creëren, zodat jonge mensen die nu geboren zijn of die nu onder 10 jaar zijn, dat die eigenlijk nooit de zin gaan hebben om te roken of te vapen.
The text had an eventful journey marked by a showdown in the European Parliament between defenders of individual freedoms and advocates of more restrictive anti-smoking legislation.